October 2007. The Nürburgring Nordschleife. 12.9 miles of automotive hell, over 150 corners, 1,000 feet of elevation change. The track that separates marketing claims from engineering reality. And screaming through those corners at speeds that would terrify most drivers was, wait for it, a Chevrolet Cobalt. Not a Corvette, not a Camaro, a front-wheel drive compact that cost $22,000. About to set a record that would put it in the same performance window as BMWs, and make enthusiasts question everything they thought they knew about performance cars. Behind the wheel, John Heinrici, GM Performance Division Executive, 11-time SCCA National Champion, a man with over 1,000 Nürburgring laps under his belt. The car, a stock 2008 Cobalt SS Turbocharged on Continental Conti Sport Contact 2 summer performance tires. The mission: beat the front-wheel drive Nürburgring record. The result? 8 minutes, 22.85 seconds, a time comparable to the BMW M3 E46. A time that cost 1/3 the price. A time that shouldn't have been possible from a Chevrolet compact. But to understand how we got here, how a Chevrolet Cobalt ended up at the Nürburgring setting records, we need to go back to the darkest day in GM performance history, back to the moment when everything died, and nobody knew what would replace it. August 27th, 2002. The very last Chevrolet Camaro rolled off the assembly line in Sainte-Thérèse, Quebec, and with it died the dream that had defined American performance for 35 years. The Firebird went down with it. Same day, same plant, same corporate execution. GM had just killed its muscle car heritage in a single afternoon. What came next was silence. Not the contemplative kind, the awkward, embarrassing kind. For the first time since 1967, GM had zero performance coupes, zero V8 muscle, zero answer to the Mustang. Just nothing. Ford partied alone for 7 years while Detroit's bow-tie brand wandered the performance wilderness like a rejected prom date. 2003 through 2009, the Camaro gap, the dark years, the period when Ford's Mustang had the entire pony car market to itself like a bully who'd scared everyone else off the playground. Dodge was planning the Challenger comeback. GM had absolutely nothing. The performance cupboard was bare. Why did GM kill the Camaro? Oh, the usual reasons. Declining sales, platform costs, the eternal excuse that coupes don't sell anymore. Never mind that Ford kept building Mustangs profitably. Never mind that the market wanted V8 muscle. GM looked at 35 years of heritage and said, nah. Then spent the next 7 years pretending they hadn't made a catastrophic mistake. But GM Performance Division, the people who actually understood enthusiasts, they weren't about to sit idle. If corporate wouldn't let them build a proper muscle car, they'd build something else. Something cheaper to develop. Something that could fly under the accountant radar. Something based on, wait for it, the Cobalt Economy Compact. Yes, the Cobalt. GM's rental car spec front-wheel drive economy sedan. The automotive equivalent of beige wallpaper. The car you got when the Civic you wanted wasn't available. That was going to be GM's performance answer during the Camaro gap? The engineers said yes. Corporate thought they were insane. The enthusiasts, well, they hadn't heard about it yet. Under the hood of the 2005 Cobalt SS Supercharged sat something genuinely impressive, the LSJ 2.0-liter Ecotec engine. But this wasn't the wheezing economy 4-cylinder from the base model. This was supercharged. 205 horsepower, 200 pound-feet of torque. An Eaton M62 Roots-type supercharger spinning at 12 psi of boost, with an air-to-water intercooler keeping everything cool. Now 205 horsepower doesn't sound earth-shattering today, but in 2005, from a 2-liter 4-cylinder in a car that cost $21,995, that was legitimate engineering. Forged crankshaft, sodium-filled exhaust valves, oil jet piston cooling. This wasn't a cheap turbo kit slapped on for marketing. This was serious hardware. But here's where GM Performance Division showed they understood the assignment. The FE5 Sport suspension wasn't just stiffer springs and shocks. 24mm front sway bar, tuned dampers, 18-inch wheels wrapped in Pirelli P0 Rosso rubber, skid pad grip in the mid to high 0.8 G range. Impressive numbers for the era that would embarrass sports cars, costing 3 times as much. And if you checked the G85 package option box, which added $1,500, you got the Quaife torque biasing limited slip differential. Recaro sport seats completed the package depending on model year. That Quaife LSD was the difference between acceptable front-wheel drive performance and legitimate front-wheel drive weapon. It transformed torque steer into usable power. It made the Cobalt SS rotate instead of plow. All of this on a semi-independent torsion beam rear suspension. Not the sophisticated multi-link setup you'd find in a BMW. Just a simple torsion beam with SS-tuned monotube shocks. The same basic rear-end architecture shared with rental spec Cobalts. And it worked. Brilliantly. So how fast was it? Car and driver clocked 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds. Motor Trend got 6.1. The quarter mile came in 14.4 seconds at 100 miles per hour. For context, that was faster than the Honda Civic Si. Faster than the Mazda Speed 3. Nearly as quick as the Dodge SRT4. And it cost less than most of them while offering better performance hardware per dollar. Here's the beautiful irony. You could rent a base Cobalt at the airport for $30 a day. Experience the most forgettable transportation known to man. Return it without a single emotional attachment. And that car shared a platform with something that could run with BMWs. GM built a performance car so good that nobody believed it was related to the rental spec version. That's not just clever engineering, that's automotive wizardry. Let that sink in for a moment. Then something unexpected happened. Electronic Arts released Need for Speed Most Wanted in 2005 and made the Cobalt SS one of the starter cars. 16 million copies sold worldwide, 3.9 million in the USA alone. Suddenly, millions of teenagers knew the Cobalt SS existed. They'd driven it virtually. They'd modded it digitally. Some of them would grow up wanting the real thing. But GM Performance Division wasn't done, not even close. Because across the Atlantic, Renault had been dominating the front-wheel drive Nürburgring record books with hot hatches. Opel had the Astra OPC turning competitive times. And GM, famously competitive GM, couldn't let Europe win at anything without a fight. So they started planning something audacious. The answer was the LNF engine, the LSJ supercharged motor's even angrier successor. 2.0-liter twin-scroll turbocharged four-cylinder with direct injection, dual variable valve timing, and 260 horsepower. 260 pound-feet of torque, from 2 liters. Stock. That was 55 more horsepower than the supercharged version. And it arrived with better technology. This wasn't just more power. The 2008 Cobalt SS Turbocharged got bigger Brembo brakes, 315mm front discs with 4-piston calipers. It got a helical limited slip differential standard. It got a 24mm rear sway bar to complement the front. It got no-lift shift technology that maintained boost between gear changes. And it got launch control in a $22,000 Chevrolet, still riding on that same humble semi-independent torsion beam rear suspension, the kind of basic architecture BMW wouldn't dare put under an M3. Yet here it was, about to embarrass the Bavarians' sophisticated multi-link setup on the most demanding track in the world. So when GM Performance Division decided to attack the Nürburgring front-wheel drive record, they had the weapon, they had the driver, they had the engineering. What they needed was proof. Not marketing claims, proof. The kind that could only come from 12.9 miles of unforgiving German asphalt. Here's where it gets even better, or crazier, depending on your perspective. Heinrici didn't run the Cobalt SS on racing slicks. He ran Continental Conti Sport Contact 2 summer performance tires. 2 25/40Y rated rubber on 18-inch wheels, stock tires, production spec. Because GM wanted a record that couldn't be dismissed as, well, of course it was fast on race tires. 8 minutes, 22.85 seconds. That was the time. 8:22.85 around the Nordschleife. For a front-wheel drive production car, for a $22,000 Chevrolet. A time that beat the previous front-wheel drive record by over 13 seconds. A time right in the same performance window as the BMW M3 E46, and comparable to legendary cars like the Nissan Skyline R32 GTR. Let's do the math. The BMW M3 E46 cost approximately $75,000. The Cobalt SS Turbocharged cost $22,995. That's a $52,000 price difference, for lap times in the same ballpark. The Cobalt gave you comparable Nürburgring performance for 30% of the price. Accountants couldn't argue with those numbers. Now, full transparency. the Cobalt's front-wheel drive record didn't last forever. About 8 months later, in June 2008, Renault showed up with the Mégane R26.R and clocked 816.9. But here's the thing. For 8 glorious months, a Chevrolet Cobalt held the front-wheel drive Nürburgring crown. Not a Honda, not a Volkswagen. A Chevy compact that shared showroom space with rental spec Avios. Still with me? Because this is the good part. Autoblog called it the most impressive performance car to wear a bow tie badge on sale today. Motor Trend crowned it a super steal. Another Autoblog review said it was freakishly good at going fast and the best bang for your buck under $30,000. These weren't small automotive blogs. These were major publications admitting that GM had done something genuinely brilliant with a compact economy car platform. What made the SS Turbocharged special wasn't just the power. It was the no-lift shift feature that lets you keep your foot buried in the throttle while banging gears. The turbo stayed spooled, boost stayed up, and acceleration never wavered. It was the launch control that managed wheel spin and power delivery for consistent standing start times. Technology that belonged on six-figure exotics, in a Chevrolet that cost less than a base Accord. And then there was the steering. 14.8-to-1 ratio, 10% quicker than the supercharged version. Hydraulic power assist, not electric numbfest. Real feedback, real precision. The kind of steering that let John Heinrici place the Cobalt within inches on the Nürburgring without breaking a sweat. The kind of steering modern performance cars would kill to have back. How fast was the turbocharged version? Motor Trend clocked 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, with no lift shift engaged. Car and driver got 5.7. The quarter mile came in 14 seconds flat, at 103 miles per hour. That was quick. That was Honda Civic Type R territory, years before the Type R arrived in America. 2009 brought one last variant, the Cobalt SS Turbocharged S-Sedan. Rally yellow paint, 4 doors, all the performance hardware. Total production? Approximately 759 units. Of those, approximately 39 came in rally yellow. If you own one of those 39, congratulations. You have one of the rarest front-wheel drive performance sedans GM ever built. Spring 2009. After 7 years in exile, the Camaro returned as a 2010 model. The muscle coupe was back. The V8 Thunder returned. And just like that, the Cobalt SS's reason for existing evaporated. Corporate didn't need a front-wheel drive performance compact when they had a real muscle car again. The Cobalt had been the substitute teacher, and the permanent faculty just walked back in. 2010 was the last model year. Total Cobalt SS production across all variants? Approximately 38 to 39,000 units. The Cobalt itself was replaced by the Cruze, which got an RS appearance package, but no SS version. No turbocharged LNF, no Nürburgring records, just another economy compact. The magic was gone. So what's the legacy of the Cobalt SS? It proved GM could compete technically with the world's best when engineers had freedom. It proved front-wheel drive could be legitimately fast, not just fast for FWD, but fast period. It proved you didn't need a V8 and rear-wheel drive to build something thrilling. And it proved that during the darkest period of GM's performance history, when the Camaro was dead and the future looked bleak, someone at GM still remembered how to build driver's cars. Years later, automotive journalist Patrick George called it the best compact GM ever made. It earned potential future classic status. It became known as the most underrated front-wheel drive sport compact of its era. Not bad for a car most people dismissed as just a Cobalt. Not bad for the car that filled the Camaro gap with something nobody expected, but everyone, eventually, respected. Would you have traded your V8 muscle car for a turbocharged 4-cylinder that could lap Nürburgring faster? Or is front-wheel drive still a deal-breaker, even when the numbers say otherwise? Let me know in the comments. And if you're wondering what happened to the other economy compact performance car from this era, the Saturn Ion Redline with the same supercharged engine, I covered that story too. Link in the description. This is Car Chronicles, where we celebrate the underdogs that proved everyone wrong. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. I'll see you next time.